Hello, I'm Barry Shreiar. I'm the president of Army and Navy Academy, an all-boys military boarding school in Carlsbad, California, for 7th to 12th grade boys. The focus of my session is on educating boys or young men. I've been with the Academy for almost 17 years, and during this time, I've served in 4 capacities: as a parent for 5 years, as a Board of Trustee member for 13 years, as the chairman of the Board of Trustees for 11 years, and now as the president of our Academy for about a year and a half. So my contribution is as a parent and administrator. This means that I have seen the impact of our school personally to the development of my son as he progressed through the Academy, and then later in support of the educators, professionals, and our ecosystem that make that personal development possible. Army and Navy Academy has been educating only boys for over 115 years, so we have a lot of experience in how this works and what boys need. I'm going to use our academy as a case study for what boys need as males. We're very proud of what we accomplish for our young men, and we do what we do not out of hubris. We do it because it works for boys. In short, it's best practice. We have over 115 years of good data proving what we do here works, and it's supported and confirmed by all the other presenters at this conference. Ours is one way that's very boy-friendly, and it works. Using what we discuss here, you may apply some of these ideas and find others that work for you. Feel free to absorb what's useful. I have a saying at Army and Navy Academy: structure leads to habits, which leads to lifestyle. Boys thrive on structure. Letting a boy know what to expect from his day makes his day easier and more productive. It takes out the guesswork, and greater certainty can take a lot of pressure off a boy who has a lot of information coming at him every day. Remember, these are formative years, and we're preparing boys to be able to function in the existing structures of college, career, and to learn to set their own structure as they mature. Structure does not strip a boy of his independence, freedom, or creativity. It allows him to own it. It places these things within a context. There is plenty of time for all of these personal liberties. They just occur within a framework or a structure. If a boy wants to go out with his friends, get on a playing field, use his devices, he has that freedom. He just knows when that occurs, and that helps him prepare for it. We have a military component at our academy, and at a military school, you hear the word discipline often. That's no surprise. Outside of that context, discipline is just habits, or the manner in which you conduct yourself. So, if the structure of your day is to be at work at 9 a.m., the habit of getting up at a certain time, exercising, the habit of getting dressed and out the door with enough time to arrive at work on time, develop into habits you must learn and internalize. Good habits are meant to lead to a lifestyle that is meant to make you happier. If you take on your day with bad habits, you end up with bad outcomes. Boys, especially boys, need to be reminded of that a lot. And you have to show them how and why to build those habits, not just talk about it. Boys do not necessarily take to good habits quickly or easily. Some do and some do not, but all of them benefit from the coaching and mentoring of what is best for them. It's a mistake to think they will figure it out for themselves without a lot of necessary hardship along the way. At our academy, we have 2 guiding pillars that define how we operate to best educate boys. First, we operate under accepted boy brain science. That's the science offered by the speakers at this conference: Michael Gurian, Leonard Sachs, Daniel Amen, Christina Hoff Summers, Warren Farrell, Michael Thompson, Tim Wright, to name a few. Our belief, based on their collective work, is that boys and girls learn differently, and there are strategies and techniques that are better suited for them, and I'll talk about them in a minute. Second, we're a virtue-driven academy. We are non-denominational. We talk about values such as honor, integrity, respect, commitment, courage, and gratitude. Boys need to understand why these values make their lives better, and they must be taught to make them habits of their behavior. Boys, from early on, need to live them throughout their day. Virtue is forged on the anvil of experience. Boys need to think about it and practice it for it to become habit. I want to talk now about what it takes to develop the whole or complete young man. I'll talk about them in 6 categories. They are academics, athletics, fitness or wellness, emotional development, social development, and spiritual development. First, academics. Boys thrive in a setting that deploys strategies and techniques that are designed to enhance boy focus. Here are a few that our teachers use. Brain breaks, especially in long block classes. Boys get up and move. They may even go outside for a few minutes. Another, objects in motion. They may throw a ball in the classroom as a method of being called on. The idea in these cases that movement wakes up the brain, and boys' brains go into a resting state early and often. Movement re-engages the learning process. Another, stand and deliver. Have a boy stand, again, more movement, when he's called on in class. Fidgeting, with a squeeze ball, pens, spinners, more movement. There's nothing wrong with a boy fidgeting so long as he's not disrupting others. Another form, set the classroom up for boys. Some do well with standing desks, some with beanbag chairs, and some may want to switch from one place to another in longer classes. I know this isn't easy to do in many classes, and some subjects are much better suited to this than others. Another, using more visual aids and graphic organizers. Boys are visual learners. Furthermore, more group work. Boys like to work in teams and to compete against other groups. Use timing devices. Again, boys love to compete, and they love boundaries. Timers provide both. Don't tell a boy he has 7 minutes to complete a task. Have a timer he can see so he will have boundaries and stay on task. Teach experiential classes. We teach experiential classes like aviation. Our boys are physically building a plane. Boys love the mechanical aspects and learning to be an aviator in class. We teach a culinary class. We max them out and must turn boys away. Boys love to make things, and they love being part of a team in the kitchen. We teach robotics for many of the same reasons. It's motorized Legos. And of course, we teach music and art. Most schools do. And this is to name some, and we're adding more classes experientially like this every year. You have to allow academics to be messy for boys. This way, boys learn to enjoy academics. Boys will find the joy in it by learning, socializing, and bonding through team projects. Let the boys be boys, and they will find habits or techniques that work for them as young men. So you can see that the prompt to a boy to sit still and pay attention or keep your hands to yourself are nothing more than quaint expressions that are meaningless to boys that, in comparison to girls, tend to be more physical, more likely to be aggressive, more likely to roughhouse, more impulsive, more competitive, more assertive, more mechanical, stronger, less efficient multitaskers, and less communicative or verbal. Use your words may take some boys decades to learn. Ask my wife. We have to find ways to get them there. For all the statistics, some of which I'll present below, Look to Michael Gurian's detailed and extensive work, along with Michael Thompson, Tom Mortensen at the Pell Institute for Higher Education, and more. Here's further evidence that the conventional order places our boys at a disadvantage. Consider the following. 70% of learning disorder diagnoses, as well as over 70% of ADD, ADHD diagnoses, are for boys. 80% of the stimulant medication prescribed in the world for ADHD is prescribed to American boys. Oppositional defiant disorder is diagnosed far more in boys than in girls. For every 100 girls diagnosed with an intellectual disability, 169 boys are diagnosed. For every 100 girls diagnosed with a learning disability, 207 boys are diagnosed. For every 100 girls diagnosed with emotional disturbance, 355 boys are diagnosed. Boys make up 80% of the discipline problems in schools. And it bears belaboring that in the United States, our high schools produce the following. Males earn 70% of D's and F's and only 40% of A's. 73% of high school dropouts are males. Males account for over 70% of the suspensions. Boys are dropping out. They're dropping out of high school, and their population on college campuses is shrinking. Yet there's no discussion as to the reason. There may be competing theories with varying levels of complexity as to why boys are fleeing these institutions. The least complex answer is that schools are not built to support boys' success. These results show that boys perform poorly, and the trending lines show no course correction. If the same methods continue to be employed, we ought to expect the same results. In fact, it keeps getting worse. More boys are failing and dropping out of both high school and college. We refuse to allow our boys to fall into that educational trap. The second piece that I mentioned, athletics. I've talked a lot about movement for boys, so I will not repeat it in this obvious context. It favors their competitive nature, their collaborative nature, and competition helps boys understand goal setting. Objective goal setting gives a boy a firm objective of scoring 1 more point, lifting 5 more pounds, or shaving off 2 seconds from their time in the mile. It helps build community. As they become a member of a team, they're in it with other young men. It builds brotherhood, a word you hear every day on our campus, because you win or lose together, and you learn to be selfless, not just to your teammates, but to your larger community. A word on learning to lose for boys. They have to learn from their mistakes and what they can do to eradicate them. Our coaches talk about demonstrating virtue when you win and when you lose. When you learn you don't like the feeling of losing, you quickly develop habits to get better at your craft. The third thing I mentioned was fitness and wellness. This is a concept that gets little attention, and I believe with changes in our culture continues to grow in importance. Boys spend a lot of time in front of screens and increasingly less time in some form of extended exercise. I'm talking about as little as 25 minutes, some simple stretching, core exercises like push-ups, leg lifts, planks, maybe some sit-ups and some simple running that raises their heart rate for about 10 to 15 minutes. We like the idea of starting the day with a fitness routine. Remember, habits equal lifestyles. Starting your day this way is like flipping on a light switch for a boy. It pumps blood throughout their body, and that means their brains. Wake up the brain, and the first and second period classes see better results. Here's a short list of benefits boys get from starting their day with a fitness or wellness habit. Flipping on that switch wakes up the entire body. Boys perform better mentally. It improves brain function. Boys eat breakfast because their morning fitness routine And we can teach them about nutrition and proper fuel. My CFO hates me because of our cost increases at breakfast and our morning fitness routine. Boys get the social benefits of starting their day together. They're not isolated. It reduces anxiety. It helps emotionally by reducing stress, even at the cellular level. It increases resiliency. There's a growing body of evidence that exercise helps reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and issues of addiction and ADHD. Boys need to develop a fitness wellness habit at an early age. The benefit will make their lives better. The fourth thing I mentioned were social skills. Our culture has shifted considerably with the advent of screens. For many, devices have kidnapped boys' attention. They have become isolated, and this inhibits their maturity. Overuse, which is quite common, makes them less emotionally available and perhaps even socially awkward. We're a boarding academy, and in a boarding setting, we put boys into social settings throughout the day until about 10 p.m. Boys are encouraged to be together and not withdrawn into two-dimensional digital worlds of social media and video games. Trust me, it's not easy. They are programmed already to be addicted to the dopamine rush these devices provide. Some boys really struggle with it. By regularly promoting them to live in the three-dimensional world, we're preparing them for college and allowing them to develop strong habits of being physically present and socializing. The fifth element I mentioned is emotional growth. Yes, boys are emotional, but not in the same manner as girls. Boys want to shake hands firmly, high five, bear hug, push, smack, and tackle each other. It's an outward showing of emotion and devotion. It shows emotional support for their brothers, and they give and receive at the same time. There's no violence, and therefore no bullying. Michael Gurian coined the term aggression nurturance for this non-violent behavior. Let boys care for each other. If you don't, you're teaching them to be emotionally unavailable. They need to learn how to take an insult, what it feels like, so that they can learn not to perpetuate it with others. They need a setting where they have a strong support for their friends and classmates. In our setting, they have a TAC. This is an acronym for Trainer, Advisor, Counselor. They are a part of our residential life program. We're a boarding school. They work with our staff, faculty, and counselors collectively. The job is to help boys create habits they need to succeed professionally and personally. They need to learn to empathize, to overcome their fears, to meet others where they are. These are not emotional weaknesses. They take courage, and boys need to be reminded of this and see it in action in their environment. One last point on social and emotional well-being. These boys have a lot more in them than our culture today might have you believe. Push them. Don't coddle them. Let them fail and make them pick themselves up. That's not male toxicity, maybe not even tough love. It's the best way to get through to most boys. It's crucial for the making of their complete selves. My last piece is spiritual growth. If a boy has a close religious affiliation outside of school, or if he goes to a religious school, then he has some training in the virtuous life. At Army and Navy Academy, our mission statement proclaims we forge virtuous young men for life. The definition of virtue here is human excellence. So in a non-denominational setting, we talk about honor, which accounts for honesty, respectability, and accountability. Integrity, doing the right thing when no one's looking. Respect, a culture of mutual regard that values individual differences and the dignity of every person. Commitment, which encompasses duty and reliability. Courage, the ability to overcome difficult challenges and face uncertainty, not just for yourselves, but for others. take the hard right over the easy wrong. And gratitude, we consider how much we appreciate and how thankful we are for all we've been given and for what we have. Cicero was right when he said gratitude is the mother of all virtues. When a boy is taught to be thankful, he understands kindness and how to be humble. It's not enough to just talk about it. You have to show these qualities and develop the habits necessary to demonstrate this throughout your day, on our campus, and off throughout your life. That's the complete or whole boy. He needs to be in a boy-friendly environment for academics, athletics, fitness and wellness, emotional development, social development, and spiritual development. You may configure it differently, but don't leave any of this out for boys. At Army-Navy Academy, we're an all-boys military boarding school, and those 4 components add up to make us an academy. We're fortunate to be able to do these things that public schools, most private schools, can't. And this allows us to cater to the complete boy. Our boarding component lets boys grow socially and emotionally 24 hours a day and allows us to extend our academic days should we need to. Our military component is built for boys. Boys thrive in a hierarchy where there are rites of passage through promotions. You may have heard a phrase attributed to military training. The military institutionalizes a behavior until it becomes habit. This is the reason you see so much structure in the day, so you can create boy-friendly habits. If we develop a system for a boy to dress, study, or organize his room, or how he makes his bed, it not only removes the stress of having one more decision to make for that boy, it also creates the habit of getting these things done so that his day becomes more productive, complete, and successful. By giving these boys structure, we provide them with freedom. I mentioned this earlier. When you free a boy's decision-making from the business of having to choose less important issues, you allow him to take ownership and focus on things that make him succeed, like focusing on his studies. Structuring the busy work frees him to be more involved with the things he enjoys the most, or that are the most important to his personal success. When a boy has a degree of discipline in the activities of his day, he's more likely to succeed. Disorganized boys are not freer boys. It's a breakdown in executive function skills. They are slaves to parts of their nature they may spend their whole lives trying to train. Our military structure gives us something unique. There's an extraordinary moral compass at work here. If you mischaracterize that as blind obedience or heartlessness, you're neglecting to recognize how boys may be taught to care for and protect each other, and make certain they will never give up, give in, or leave someone behind. Peer leadership is very boy-friendly. Boys lead boys. They train them, mentor them, and emotionally support them. The boy who leads his peers learns how to move people, and he learns more about leadership than most master's programs may teach. The boys they lead learn to follow from those closest to them, and boys learn the first lesson in leadership: how to follow. Academically, what boys need as males is for our schools to use the kinds of strategies and techniques that Dr. Gurian and Dr. Glenetta Fletcher so often speak and write about, many of which I spoke about here. We're a Gurian Center of Excellence, which allows our faculty and staff to train and collaborate with the very best boy brain educators. If you neglect this, you're very likely leaving your boys behind. Remember, structure leads to habits, which lead to lifestyle. And to cater to the complete boy, academically, athletically, fitness and wellness, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. Current data shows that boys need us more now than ever before. We're proud to be in the fight with you. If we can help you or collaborate with you, please feel free to contact me at the email you see on the screen. Thank you for joining me. Warrior proud, warrior strong.
Warrior proud! Warrior strong! Warrior proud! Warrior strong! Warrior proud! Warrior strong! Warrior proud! Warrior strong!